to Divine Downloads. I'm your host and spiritual mentor, Cassandra, and this is the show that helps you make the vision for your life your reality through using spiritual guidance and strategic tools to help you bring it to life. And today, I think we have a very relevant and important topic for these times, which is integrating energetic upgrades. You can also think about this as the Ascension process or as your light body upgrading, whatever you want to call it. There is a recalibration time, right? And there is a really important knowing, I think, around this, especially since more and more of us right now with 2020 and with everything that's been going on in the world. I've talked about this in other podcasts, and if you haven't already gotten my Quantum Leap Intensive Workshop, it's totally free. Click the link in my bio, watch it today. It's 2 hours of juiciness and a really beautiful timeline hopping meditation, really talking about all of this as well. But recently, I'm about a little bit over a week and a half into a little Instagram hiatus. It feels interesting. It's like I'm cheating on Instagram with the podcast right now. But I decided to take a step away from Instagram. This is the longest break I've ever taken. And while this is not, this is not radical by any means, right? It was because of the immense energetic upgrades that were happening. And with this started happening, this has happened for me, let's say, multiple times during my life. It happened a lot during my spiritual awakening and a couple other periods thereafter. But right now, the energetic upgrades, which is what I'm going to call it, it's like an upgrade to our energy, literally, to our light body, to our light body. I think that is the best way to say it. You can think about it as this beautiful, the image I get around it is this like beautiful, bright, divine light kind of is hitting earth and all of these spaces and all at a more higher intensity recently than ever before. And our bodies absorb this light. And what it does is it recalibrates us on a cellular and a DNA level. It helps us shift. It's kind of like when you naturally move from one energetic space to another, and all of a sudden one day you're like, wow, I used to have, for me, I used to have a really hard time standing still and being in my office all day long and doing that. I would struggle sometimes to be productive. And after one of these upgrades and downloads, so to speak, I noticed that completely left me, right? That my energy was way more grounded. It was way more tuned in to my intuition, way more tuned into what I needed to execute that day, way more focused. Another way sometimes these energetic upgrades can present, that's a super obvious one that I see with a lot of my clients, is people wanting to drink less alcohol, having less of a tolerance for alcohol. It's also people wanting to eat more plant-based, having, more of a struggle with more denser, heavier processed or animal foods. And again, I'm not saying this to do any sort of judgment on whatever anyone eats or drinks or anything like. But that is just something that I have seen, because as our body recalibrates, what it can have shifts as well, right? What it wants to eat shifts as well. What it wants to ingest shifts as well. So my recent recalibration, I really had to let go coffee. I had been trying to let go coffee for a while. But it was interesting with this recent recalibration. It was easier than it had ever been and clearer than it had ever been that coffee was not serving me and was no longer able to be a part of the journey, right? Similarly, I've seen it in my clients where all of a sudden they're like, it's not like it's like a conscious choice saying, I, decide that, I want to be vegan and I'm not going to eat meat anymore. It's not so much that. It's like all of a sudden they're like, actually, I find myself when I'm out, I'm always ordering the vegetarian dish. Or I find myself, actually, getting sick when I see a steak or something like that. So it just kind of shifts over time. This also can manifest in our career or our relationships. All of a sudden, projects and things that we were aligned with or we were totally fine doing, right, no longer resonate with us, no longer feel in alignment, right? It's because when we get these energetic upgrades that, there's a lot of this stuff, obviously, when I do my one-on-one coaching with people in my group coaching programs, where when you're in a container like this, obviously these energetic upgrades happen at what I like to call quantum levels, right? That's why we call it the quantum leap. They can happen very rapidly when you're in a sacred growth container. But what's happening now as well, in addition to those sacred growth leaps, right, which are usually held and guided with your mentor, with a coach, with a therapist, so that they can kind of help you navigate what's going on and understand. You'll notice if you've ever bought pretty much any workshop from me or done any of my meditations, I almost always suggest drinking water or taking a salt bath, making sure you get some rest after some of the energy work we do, right? Because it's holding a responsible container. It's acknowledging that we moved energy, that we shifted energy, and that is going to have a physical effect on you. And so our physical body needs to be held and cared for during that time, right? And so, but what's happening right now, even more so, which is what inspired this podcast episode, is that we're seeing these beautiful energetic light code updates kind of coming in at a more rapid level. And what's happening as we're seeing on the planet in many different ways this year, things coming to light, things being illuminated. We've talked about this in, the Quantum Leap Intensive, and I'm surely probably the Mars Retrograde podcast or one of the other podcasts recently about 2020. Is that 2020 has been a real detox process for the world. And it's been a real detox process for us as well. And what do you know about a detox process, right? A detox process is kind of going into all the nooks and crannies, getting the things that are toxins, getting the things that are not serving us, bringing them to the surface and pushing them out, right? And then what results after a detox process is a change of matter in a way, right? It's a change of what was there before, because it's like if you went from, I'm trying to think, it's like if you had a watermelon, right? You have a watermelon and you go in and let's say you meticulously take out all the little seeds in the watermelon, right? So now there's all this spaciousness in the watermelon. The watermelon has changed in a way from the removal of these things. It's gotten lighter a little bit, right? And so similarly, you can think about that as going on with all of us, and we're seeing it reflected on a collective level, right? The United States of America, the world right now doesn't have a quote unquote life coach. I like to joke around that I like to think astrology and the planets are really like the life coaches of the world. And that kind of controls like the subjects that we're dealing with and what things are coming up, right? But there's not, but we're seeing this, right? Because of the alignments that are moving through, because of these beautiful light codes coming up, and it's exposing things. It's showing the detox process. And we see that very obviously out there, but we need to acknowledge it's also going on with us. And so every single one of us is going through our own process, our own detox process, our own light code upgrade process right now, in the same way we're seeing it mirrored in the world, which is important for us to acknowledge so that we can not misinterpret perhaps certain things we're feeling, and we know how to properly take care of ourselves during this. So one of the most common symptoms of this, like I said, other than what you said, you just start noticing your preferences shifting, right? And it's because you're shifting at a fundamental level. Your energy is shifting, your vibration is shifting, what you're available for is shifting, right? So you could, have been literally going to that same deli and getting that salad every day for the past year, but then all of a sudden one day you go and you're like, oh, I don't want that. Actually, that doesn't even look good to me right now, right? And maybe you get it anyway and you're like, maybe, and you don't like it, right? And then you're like, you know what, actually, I've been eating that same salad for a year, but today actually feel more attracted to that soup, right? Or whatnot. So the moral in that kind of shifting and upgrading when it comes to either food or alcohol or working out or sleeping, or even how you dress, right? Or how you want to do your hair, or how you show up in the world, your schedule, allowing things to shift without resistance. I want you to be open, and this is, obviously something that I teach as far as connecting to our intuition every day, but especially when we're going through these energetic upgrades, I want you to be open to your intuition on the moment to moment level. I want you to wake up every day and acknowledge that today is a new day, and let me be open to what feels aligned with me today. So if one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel really aligned to go take a nice walk, and then I really want to get started on my X, Y, and Z work, right? And then you're like, you know what, for lunch, I'm feeling like I'm going to do that. Just allow, some things obviously inevitably will be things that you've already done a bunch, right? But just allow for the space for those moments to choose a new thing. And it's really, I like to call it the miracle moment when we're consciously shifting it, right? But really, right now, it's allowing yourself the space to shift when the shift has already occurred on some level in your energetic body, right? And so what happens is when we receive shifts like that, it can be a little confusing because we know when we're doing work. We know when we're doing healing work around a certain thing in our lives. We know when we're doing manifesting work on a certain things in our life. We know when we're, setting a goal and working towards it, and maybe we've just kind of clicked the right things into place so something shifts up to gear, right? But why these energetic recalibrations or ascension can be a little bit tricky is because it can come in little patches that won't always be associated with specific work. Obviously, that being said, obviously, I hope it's clear that you can navigate these things with way more grace and way more leaping if you have a nice sacred container to work in, right? If you're working with a coach or a therapist or a mentor, if you have a concrete daily practice where you're meditating, where you're showing up for what's going on, right? We can then therefore make the most of these leaps, right? But what I think can be sneaky about them sometimes is that we are just recalibrating because shifts are going on right now on our planet. And so you can go through periods where one of the things that was appearing to me, it happened in March, kind of at the start of this, and then it happened again recently, which is why I just took that little break on Instagram, is that I've become very, very sensitive to being in front of technology. I can no longer physically spend as much time in front of a computer or on my phone. It does not work for my energy when I'm in the middle of these upgrades. So when I'm in the middle of the upgrades, what will happen is if I spend too much time on my phone, my eyes will physically start hurting, and I'll start getting a halo headache, right? I'll start getting a headache that feels like a little halo around me. I'll notice just like everything in my body, and I'm very connected to my intuition, so I'll notice that everything in my body is kind of saying, like, it's almost like you're about to eat like spoiled food, right? Where your body's just like, don't do it. So that was happening to me. That's actually a very common symptom, right? And it's because your electronic devices give off, Wi-Fi devices give off EMF rays, right? They essentially give off a vibration and a frequency too, right? That is not necessarily the best for us, right? And we have adjusted and we can handle processing them, obviously in appropriate time spaces, but we are not meant to be processing them all the time. So when your body is going through an energetic recalibration, what's happening is it's extra sensitive. That's why you're going to find yourself needing to drink more water. You're going to find yourself probably more on the tired side, needing to sleep more, taking salt baths. You're going to find yourself needing more quiet time, right? And so when we introduce a lot of stimuli, we're going to have a reaction. So when you're going through these energetic upgrades, it may also be uncomfortable for you to be in a public place with a lot of people, right? That was something that happened for me a lot as I was moving through these earlier in my life as well. When you're going, like, I used to live in New York City when I first started my spiritual journey. So you can just imagine during these times, I wouldn't take the subway. I would try to walk on the street, and I would try to find, quieter streets, not walk on main streets, not maybe sit at busy restaurants, find more quiet places to sit at. And it's really just all about honoring that energy and kind of respecting that there's a process that's going on that you cannot see, that you really truly just have to trust is happening, and trust how you're feeling and it's real. And often, people experience flu like symptoms when they're having massive energetic upgrades, right? And so people will ask the question, well, how do I know if I'm genuinely sick or if it's an energetic upgrade? And the truth is that it's an intuitive thing, right? So you can really tune into your body and ask, okay, what do I need? And is this me? Is there something here that I need to bring attention to? Or is this something that, I just need to kind of work through? The thing I will say about energetic upgrades is that the main difference between energetic upgrade and really generally feeling sick is that you should not need any kind of medication to get through it. So, simply resting more, drinking a lot of fluids, maybe you want to have some if you're like a toast and soup when you're feeling under the weather kind of person, or whatever kind of, if you make yourself like a carrot, lemon, ginger, concoction or something, all those kind of natural things at home that support your body extra while you're moving through things, taking Epsom salt baths, being a little bit gentler on your work schedule, not over exercising, keeping your exercising more to walking or restorative yoga if you don't have that energy. So all of that should be enough to support you through it. If it feels like all of that is not enough to support you through it, then it's probably something else, right? And it's not just the energetic upgrade. So on the other hand of this, sometimes energetic upgrades can manifest in really electric energy. So this is not what has happened for me recently, but I do want to address it because it is a possibility. So sometimes when it happens, it's like all of a sudden you're like buzzing, your eyes are even wider, you have all these ideas, things are flowing, and it's really, again, just allowing it and going with it. I really like to teach my clients to lean into the process, right? So if your body is slowing down by this process, if your body is yearning for less time on screens, less time around big groups of people, if your body is yearning for you to nourish and nestle and stay at home and go to sleep early and take your baths, then that is where the gold is going to come through, right? So lean into that, clear your schedule, move the things you can have around, wear comfy clothes if that's going to support you through it. It's all these different ways. How can you be helpful during this process to really just allow it to run its course and receive all of the gold and the wisdom from it? And so if you're being called to slow down, then that is a great time to spend time in sound baths, listening to sound baths. I highly recommend, regardless of how it's manifesting for you, when you're moving through these energetic upgrades. And once again, if you're in my Miracle Mastermind or any of my group coaching programs, you know that when I meditate, I'm always putting in a solfeggio frequency. I love 528. That's the most popular one. There are a whole bunch of different solfeggio frequencies. And they all help with DNA recalibration. They all help with energy recalibration, right? So they're especially helpful during these times. If you're experiencing some of these symptoms, if you have to be on the computer, obviously for work or whatnot, I feel you. I can't get around that. When it's really bad, sometimes I'll switch my clients over to just audio because that's better for me. But you can put that on in the background, and what it does, it also helps your energy process it, because you want to thinking about almost as like lightning in a bottle in a way, right? Like it can be like this lightning bolt in a bottle, And it can, on some ways, can almost feel like it like burn, like electrocutes it or burns it, right? And on the other ways, it can feel like it's like this lightning bolt, like jolting back and forth in there. So it can go into extra anxiety, it can go into extra energy, or it can go into the opposite where you're feeling tired or whatnot. But just acknowledging that if you are in that excess energy space where you might be going into anxiety if you're not working out enough, if you're not being physically active enough, you want to, again, you want to be physically active to get that energy to help it process on through. Lean into what it's asking for, because again, that's where the gold is. That's where the shift is for you. So if you're moving through a specifically more energizing integration period, it's because there are going to be actions and things you're going to have to go and do that's going to help facilitate this next level that you're leaping to, this next integration, this next phase. And so it's perfectly great to lean into that and just acknowledge it. Other ways you can know that you're moving through it is really when you feel a certain way and there's not a real reason for it. You're like, I don't know why all of a sudden I feel like I have so much energy and I'm anxious this week, or I'm not really sure why I'm so sleepy, and I just feel like I need to drink a lot of water, and I'm feeling like I just really want really light meals or whatnot. On the other hand, as far as the food goes, sometimes you can crave more heavier grounding things because you feel like the energy is so much and you're trying to actually slow the process down, which is also okay. Keep it healthy so it supports and nourishes your body. But yeah, so things that I find particularly helpful moving through whichever spectrum you are on is definitely soaking in Epsom salt baths. This helps the detoxifying process of energetic upgrades, and just helps with like moving let's say the energetic toxins or the denser energies out. I would say regularly saging or palisandering or whatever energetic clearing practice you have is really helpful. This is also just something interesting, but if you sleep in the same bed with someone or you're in an apartment with someone, there might be times where you simply just want to go off on your own for a couple of days and allow yourself, your aura, the space to have that space. Allow yourself to take naps during the day if you need the naps. And once again, if you feel like you have too much energy, then allow yourself to, do the extra class at the gym or go for a run, and really allow that energy to move through you. If feelings are coming up, and this is another thing that could happen, is sometimes you might just have a day where all of a sudden you're so angry. And you're like, I don't know why I'm so angry. I don't really have anything to be angry. Nothing really happened, but I'm just feeling really angry. It's okay. You're detoxing some of the anger from your system in that moment. So once again, honoring it and then doing something to release it, right? So whether you want to do a ritual to release it, you want to scream into a pillow to release it, you want to go to a kickboxing class to release it, allow it to midwife it out and up and get it out of your system. Same thing with sadness. If you need to cry, just again, think of it as a detox process. It's moving through, and the denser energies are being pushed up and out. And so sometimes when they're coming up, you're going to be feeling them or experiencing them, even though they're not connected to something that's directly related to your reality right now. And that's fine. Just let them come up and out. Don't try to go looking for things to attach to them, right? Trust if there's something you're meant to know and that's coming up, you'll know what the association is. You'll know what wound that was, right? But if it's not, if it's just that general emotion, just kind of let it happen. It just wants to come up and out. And then I guess the biggest thing I can really say as well is really, really, really honoring every step of the way, honoring the ability that we all have to make shifts in any moment, and the ability that we all have to wake up tomorrow and start anew, that we all have to have this day be day one, right? So maybe your whole life you've identified with being a coffee lover, and you wake up and because of whatever upgrades going on. You're like, oh, I'm actually coffee doesn't sound good today, but who am I to fight? Did I say that? Um, and you start having tea or you start having water, whatever it is, right? Or all of a sudden you're like, I've always been a yoga girl. Now I want to do CrossFit. Honor what's coming up and where you're intuitively being guided, right? Because, like I said, as we upgrade our systems, things are shifting and changing. It's just like when you upgrade your computer. Oh, also, great, great, great segue with that. Exactly, thinking about upgrading your computer. So when your computer needs an update, what happens? It needs to be plugged into a power source. It usually needs to like not be doing anything else, right? And sometimes it takes overnight or whatever it does. You can think about yourself that way, right? You need to go plug yourself in. You need to eliminate some of the things that are on your plate so that you can handle handle the upgrade that's coming and moving through. And then when it arises, there are going to be things that are shifting. For that reason as well, when you know you're in the middle of one of these energetic upgrade moments, it is really good to be careful about what you're letting in. Be careful about what opinions you're letting in. Be careful about what media you're letting in, because you want to allow yourself, like a little baby, right, to kind of crack from your egg, spur up, see the world fresh, and really be connected to your intuition as to what your next step is, as to what you need to do to take care of you. And you don't want to allow, seeing someone on Instagram or seeing, maybe one of your parents or one of your friends give you an unwelcomed opinion about something, alter the evolution that wants to happen in that moment. The best thing you can do is, go in for meditation even more than usual, go in for those sound baths, and lots of journaling and just acknowledging kind of what's coming up and through, and opening yourself up to whatever wants to shift, whatever wants to move within you. This is also why you're going to start noticing some relationships are going to be shifting, right? You're going to start noticing that, when certain people text you, you don't really want to respond, right? Or certain people ask to hang out, maybe you're not feeling as jazzed. Whereas new people, you're feeling even more drawn to, even more wanting to see them, even more wanting to hang out. So just acknowledging that all these shifts are happening for all of us, and at different times, depending on when we're getting hit with it, and also different depending on how much work you've been doing, right? Have you someone that does have a spiritual practice, you do connect to your intuition, it's going to be a lot more graceful for you to navigate these energetic upgrades. There are nothing, I'll just give this disclaimer before I close, there are nothing to be afraid of. They're really, really beautiful, amazing things that are helping us grow and expand, and really be our best, truest self, and step into that next evolution of ourselves and the next evolution of our species and the new paradigm for this earth. They're all assisting energies in so, so, so much goodness. So I just want you to know what to look out for, want you to know how to handle it with grace, and just be gentle and loving with yourself during this period. If you have any questions about this, feel free, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. If you're watching on the podcast, shoot a little screenshot and ask me your question, or DM me on Instagram. And as always, if you love this episode, please subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or on iTunes. It really means the world to me. And of course, if you want to grab my free Quantum Leap Intensive Workshop with a meditation, it's at the link below. I highly suggest it, especially if you're feeling like you're in this process, or you're just tuned into this energy of 2020. It's really juicy, and I put it out there because I feel like it's like a PSA to all my beautiful light makers. So I love you, and I will see you next time on Divine Downloads.